Morning all, I have an instructive game from the point of view of the importance of anticipating forcing moves in advance. This game was played in the 1962 Olympiad. Donato Rivera was playing white against the legend Robert James Fischer. The Olympiad was held in Varna, which is a very large city in Bulgaria. Varna is the largest city and seaside resort on the Bulgarian Black Sea coast, classified the third and second largest city in Bulgaria, in fact. Donato in this game is representing Puerto Rico in this Olympiad. In 1964, Air Force First Lieutenant Donato Rivera de Jesus won the 5th US Armed Force Championships, and so this is the tournament he was most famous for playing in Puerto Rico in the Varna Chess Olympiad of 1962. Okay, so Donato played d4 and Fischer reacted with knight f6. After c4 we see a Nimzo Indian defense. White doesn't sidestep knight c3, he plays knight c3. No, none of this Queen's Indian stuff. He allows the pin, which Fischer uses now, bishop b4. e3, the Rubinstein variation, very solid continuation in general. d5, and Fischer is starting to put the centre under great pressure. White now plays a3, which strengthens the centre, especially the d4 square, but it is a bit of a time loss. Black takes on c3, voluntarily giving up the bishop pair but doubling white's pawns, and now plays c5. So a lot of central tension here. Bishop d3 is played from white. Often another move played here to avoid any tempos on this bishop is actually just to play c takes d5 in this position. But bishop d3 was played, d takes c4, bishop takes c4, and now queen c7, and already black's got a comfortable position. He's threatening c takes d4 on the bishop. So something has to be done again about this bishop. Bishop drops back actually to b3. Might be safer to put the bishop on e2 with a solid position. Okay, so b6, and another side effect of the bishop being here is that actually bishop a6 is annoying for white, and this leads for a slight contortion against this, knight e2, to be able to castle. The problem with knight e2 is that potentially as well as the control of e5, it's sometimes safer to have a knight on f3 for various reasons as opposed to e2. But anyway, so black castled. We see bishop b2, and it looks as though well, white's perhaps keen to liberate the bishop later with c4 and maybe even play for d5, but it takes a lot of time, this plan. Knight c6 is played. After castles we see knight a5, and here, okay, it looks as though there's no problem here that the queen is protecting the bishop, but perhaps just to be on the safe side, bishop a2 or bishop c2. Bishop c2 is actually far less desirable than bishop a2 because that c4 square is very juicy for black. You can imagine if bishop c2 then knight c4, it's a very nice looking knight here attacking this bishop. So, but bishop a2 might be an idea here. We see actually instead of white playing knight g3, which does have some logic behind it. Maybe white is keen to set up a centre one day, for example, like this, and then this bishop's holding the centre, making it more solid. So this kind of advance is sometimes being seen thematically in games, at least. Here Fischer plays bishop b7, and this is where a sense of danger and preparing for all forcing moves is quite interesting and important in this position. It looks as though there isn't too much to worry about from white's perspective, and because at the moment there's no actually direct threat at the moment, it would seem, or is there? Can you see that there is a threat for black here? White actually played in this position rook c1, and I wonder if you can guess how Fischer played now. If I give you 10 seconds, what would you play in this position? So 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, Queen c6, and from this point on, I mean, here White is actually in a very, very bad state. It doesn't matter if he's Kasparov now, if Fischer was playing Kasparov, or anyone. It's actually because of this lack of anticipation for this simple forcing move, threatening mate. It's actually a complete disaster here for White, and this is revealed now that White cannot play the leisurely f3 in this position because it has another problem now, and there's actually nothing White can do about it. I mean, he has to defend the mate, but can you see what Fischer played in this position? If I give you 10 seconds starting from now. Okay, Queen b5. Yes, these bishops are pretty loose, and if this moves, then we lose b2. Well, in the game, White did play bishop a4, maybe trying to convince himself maybe possibly the queen could be trapped, but after queen takes b2, I think he must have changed his mind. It's not at all clear how to trap the queen here. It's getting out. The queen's getting out in various ways. Black can also use the d5 square if needed, if it's really a problem. So actually White resigned here. It just shows that sometimes, you know, you've really got to anticipate the forcing moves in advance, and this would actually profoundly affect certain moves as well, like, you know, bishop e2 for knight f3 would have blocked the whole diagonal naturally without any potential forcing move threats on g2. But just one disaster led to another, so just losing a piece in this position by force was the culmination of some inaccuracies earlier in the game. Comments or questions on YouTube? Thanks very much.